everybody. Welcome back to the 1313 podcast, the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe. I am Jacob.
I am Tommy.
Welcome back to all you Regs and to all you Shinies. Welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast. Please, before we begin, make sure that you are liking, subscribing, and following us on all of our social medias. That is Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, X, and Twitch. Also, thank you guys so much for getting us to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We finally did it.
1,000 subs.
And we definitely have something special planned for you guys coming down the pipeline, but we gotta figure it all out first. We gotta get it logistically and literally and metaphorically and prehistorically before we make any announcements. But we got something cooking. We're cooking. Call us Dave Filoni because we cooking.
We are cooking.
Mm-hmm. But
also go check out all of our vlogs, our guags.
The guags from ErieCon.
Day 1, Day 2, Day 3 guag.
Mm-hmm.
Already all out.
And maybe a mega guag at some point. But
ooh, a mega guag.
A mega guag.
And also go check out all of our friends that came to Comic-Con with us. Go check out Skywalker Hendrix, Hybrid Toy Reviews, 212 Hunter, all good friends of the channel. Mm-hmm. As well as new friends of the channel. Go check out Icons Unlimited on Instagram, as well as Kylo's Creations on Instagram. You'll probably be seeing him in a lot more stuff coming
eventually.
Up. Yeah.
Also, shout out to anybody that met us at the con, who came and stopped and said hi, who are now subbed to it. If you're new here, what's up? Thank you for coming by. Shout out to Dennis.
Phantom Menace Dennis.
Shout out Dennis for coming by all the way from Pittsburgh to say hi to us. That was super cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Send me the picture that you got. But no, yeah. How's your week?
It was good. I just did like chores and stuff today.
That's boring.
Yeah. And we also had ErieCon, so that was cool too.
Yeah, ErieCon was
we also
busy.
missed last week's podcast.
Yeah, we missed it because we were doing ErieCon stuff and we were busy.
That was more important.
Sorry, guys. You got 3 videos out of it, so.
Yeah, and also now that we hit 1,000, you can expect an updated collection tour video.
Eventually.
Giveaway, which is pending. Many much things to be given away. And
maybe. Allegedly.
And I don't know, there was something else we were going to do too.
Tiki's
Trading Post is coming back on Monday.
Yeah, so hope you guys enjoy it.
We just got done recording it.
Yeah, so it will be coming out. How's your week, Tommy?
It was good. Jacob, how was your week?
Busy. Had a lot of work, a lot of homework, a lot of work. I was at campus late 2 days in a row. Yesterday, I didn't leave campus till like 11:30 at night.
That sucks.
So it was fine. It's film stuff, so I love it. It's just it's time consuming, and then for Malcolm that Malcolm, you silly goofy guy, made me do 50 drawings for homework. 50.
Why?
Because it's gesture, and you need to practice it to be better at it. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but 50.
I'll show you a gesture, Malcolm.
But
so you see, the joke is.
No, it was fine. That my work's getting better because of it. I understand why I have to do it. It's just really time consuming.
You should tell him that's not nice.
And then he'll tell me to die. But no. Oh, I showed him how to make a selfie series.
What did he say?
Well, because last year I brought.
Like, oh, good, Jacob. You're not completely useless to me today.
Well, no, because he asked me to show him. Because last year I brought him my selfie series, and he was like, "My brother's really into all that stuff. Can you show me how to do that so I can get one for him?" So I showed him how to use the Pulse app to get a selfie series.
Dopeness monster.
Is that just new vocab?
It is, dude. Just like guag. I think it's my new favorite thing that... I don't know. I've just been like spontaneously making up a new language.
All right, y'all. So we missed Ahsoka episode 4.
Yeah, we get it. Anakin showed up. Everyone had a hoopla moment.
We had a conniption.
And then Ahsoka died. And then like... Yeah, it was crazy.
And then Sabine's gotten kidnapped.
And Marok is a fart.
Marok is a fart.
Marok is Marok. Your Marok theory sucks.
That was disappointing.
Up top for the Marok being Marok.
Mm-hmm. That was a little bit disappointing when he just turned into a little gas giant.
Well, I think it was a Night Sister like zombie thing. Because when Savage Opress dies, he loses all his magic, and when all the zombies die, they lose all their magic too.
Perhaps.
So I think it was Morgan Elsbeth had him tagging along.
Like reanimated.
Yeah.
That
It also would make sense why his armor is rusted. Because he's
dead.
He wasn't that he wasn't maintaining it. He just dead.
Could be. That's kind of cool if it was a zombie. That'd be kind of neat. But no, episode 5 came out, and it blew us away.
It did.
In every way.
It seriously, I've said this several times on the show, but this was actually like top 3 Star Wars things I've ever seen. The Ahsoka show as a whole is top 3 Star Wars things. I will say that we're only 5 episodes in. I think this is better than The Mandalorian. It's better than Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's better than Book of Boba Fett. It's better than most of the Star Wars movies.
And they haven't even shown us the Blue Man yet.
And the Blue Man's not even here. So yeah, for the show to be that good, and we don't even have our major villain yet, I think we're up to something.
We're in tall cotton. It's awesome. But no. You've seen via TikTok, Instagram, the Star Wars official page.
Spoilers, by the way, for Ahsoka episode 5. If you somehow didn't get it by now,
yeah, loser. No, we got the Clone Wars flashbacks. Let's just flat out say it.
Let's just go in.
Let's dive right into it.
Because that's what most of the episode is about.
That's what everything else that was in the episode that wasn't these flashbacks was just. Everything else, you could label this entire episode as filler, but it was just because the filler was awesome.
I guess technically, like if you're looking at story beats,
if you're looking at
they do figure out how to follow the bad guys and get to Sabine.
Yeah,
but
they take an entire episode to revive Ahsoka, and then have Ahsoka go Purrgil.
Yeah.
So if you want to boil it down to like things that are like pertaining directly to the timeline of this story, it's a filler episode. But the bells and whistles and knickknacks of this episode were so good.
It was like exclusively a character study on Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And also it just took, other shows have done it a little less in your face, but this show spits in the faces of anybody who is saying negative things about this show. Like the argument of Ahsoka's too stoic, this explained it to you. Ahsoka is stoic because she carries guilt and shame and every other negative feeling and fear and anger about walking away from Anakin and seeing what he became. Boom.
And the fact that she's holding on to it like a grudge too.
And that's why she won't take Grogu in as a Padawan. That's why she fails Ahsoka as a master.
You mean failed Sabine?
Or Sabine, yeah, because Ahsoka, it's not that Sabine can't learn, it's that Ahsoka
doesn't want to teach
her. Doesn't have it in her to teach. And Ahsoka was trying to train Sabine how Anakin trained her, which was to be a warrior. Because, dude, I love this. Let's just talk about the Clone Wars stuff before we get all philosophical and.
Well, okay. So, but no, we got our initial dip with seeing Ahsoka seasons 3 through 5.
It was actually the Tales of the Jedi updated costume. So it's technically Ahsoka seasons 1 through 3. But it's the Tales of the Jedi got rid of the tube top and gave her that full top. So it's actually that costume, weirdly enough.
Okay. But yeah, so we see fully clothed Ahsoka, and it was, oh my gosh, it was so cool. We see it, it's the opening, it's the battle on Ryloth.
Yes, it is. Which is, again, from the show, that's the first time that Ahsoka learns a lesson where she leads troopers in battle.
Does this retcon that, though?
Because
with the clothes being different.
I would argue no. I think that, I was talking to some friends about this last night. I think, honestly, it's normal for characters to wear different clothes day to day. And also, like, we've seen these characters in the Clone Wars wear different outfits for different settings. So maybe, I mean, I know her and Anakin were mostly in the sky for most of the battle. Maybe just on this particular day, they were not.
I think, personally, due to the background of all of these flashbacks being like a haze, I believe it's more as a memory than their physical being there. So that gives a little leeway, because especially last time that we saw Ahsoka and Anakin butting heads it's such ferocity, but then a lesson was in Tales of the Jedi. So it could be the mindset of the training of Tales from the Jedi, but the setting of Ryloth. So it was we see her get awakened, and then we see real armor phase 1 clone troopers running out of the fog. And I don't get me wrong, I love that we're doing practical suits. I love it. But seeing how they move compared to seeing how I've always known it, it was a little jarring. It was a little jarring at first.
It definitely was for me too.
But I must say, I've always loved... I won't say always, but I'm a phase 1 guy. I think phase 1 is better than phase 2. And seeing them in live action, oh, it looks even better, dude. Because these helmets, how they are in live action, like now, they're Clone Wars style.
They are.
With the really big flare bell at the bottom that doesn't have like this big lip. It's a perfect mix of Attack of the Clones and the clones in the Clone Wars.
The CGI clones, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is, oh my gosh, it was so good. And then we see phase 1 Rex in the distance. And we see Anakin in this armor, and that armor is based off how it is in Battlefront rather than the sweeping, like the U shoulders, how it is in the Clone Wars. I just think this looks so much better compared to the Black Series has like the bells that come up a little bit on the shoulder where they sweep, which this Anakin comes with the ability to do that, but I always thought the Battlefront one looked better. So no,
Now, I gotta say, I think this was all done perfectly. So Anakin and Ahsoka are in the world between worlds, which is that in and of itself is ridiculous. Because I know that we pretty early on had written off. We didn't think the world between worlds was going to be in the show at all. They have this moment, and this is my. I want to give you my perception on this, and then get your thoughts on it. So my take on what this is Ahsoka died, okay? She gave up and she died. And she is in this kind of Force purgatory where this is the world between worlds to me now after seeing this episode is the Force. Is like the closest you could possibly come to visualizing what the living force is, or the cosmic force, I guess I would say, because in the Clone Wars we established that there's the living force and the cosmic force, and that's what Yoda chases to learn that ability to live past death. And so Ahsoka talks to Anakin, and I think that this is Anakin. I don't think it's a vision. I don't think it's like a all in her head thing. I think that this was Anakin coming to Ahsoka as his manifestation in the Force. And the reason we don't see a blue glow is because we're in the Force. This is the whole place we're in is the cosmic Force. So Anakin doesn't need to have a blue glow for you to understand that. And it's cool too that she sees him as she remembered him as Anakin Skywalker. And so for me, I think that this sequence between the two of them is Ahsoka has died. She's in kind of Force purgatory. Anakin is teaching her that she is the only one at the end of the day who chooses if her story is over yet or not. And so to do that, he takes her back to where her fears come from, where they originated, which are that she doesn't want to be like him. And that's what do you think of that?
I think that's a really good way to state it. This is something I've been brewing about because the world between worlds, it isn't like this thing that you can only access when you're in the special temple on Thal.
Yes.
Granted, the only times that we see it is on the Thal, but I do believe that it's a convergence of the Force and a place where the Force just exists. And it's something that I believe all Jedi can tap into.
I agree.
Because we see this in Rebels. Ezra goes to the world between worlds multiple times. He does. He just doesn't know it. We see it, of course, in the episode World Between Worlds, but we get allusions to it in the beginning. When he speaks to Yoda, he's in the world between worlds, but because he isn't aware to the full encompassing power of the Force yet, he's so narrow-minded and naive, he only sees Yoda. And then he goes back and he gets another vision. It isn't until he's dealing with the death of Kanan, and he's fully maturing himself, that he finally understands how everything works and like fully is able to accept the wide vision of how big and encompassing the Force is, as he's learning to grieve. And the World Between Worlds is one of the tools that teaches him to grieve. Sorry, I just thought of the goodbye to Kanan as the white loaf walks away. It's so sad. But
that's a really good point too.
Yeah, it's something that can be accessed all the time. So Ahsoka doesn't even have to be dead. She could just be unconscious, but in a state of meditation. But
yeah, like she's like teetering on the edge of dying. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So like, but the whole point of this thing is because this whole time she's been all glum chum bum, and she needs to realize that she's living with this pain and this grief and this guilt of not being there for Anakin. But when her paradigm shifts, when she says, I want to live, and then we see it in the rest of the episode where she's no longer just moody.
She's Ahsoka the White.
Yeah, she's no longer like this moody Ahsoka. She dons the white cloak of being reborn again, and she has a whole different mood change. She's more smiley. She's more happy about things. She has hope again. So, and I don't think this is going to be the last time that we see Anakin in the show. I think, personally, at the end of this series, we're going to see him one more time, whether that's in a Force Ghost or in some sort of apparition, and he will be like, because this was her last lesson, he'll be like, you now have everything you need, peace out, and that's going to be the last we ever see of him. Yeah. I honestly think this show, unless they like go back and they do a show based on like in between, like live Star Wars theory. I wish they would just do a show on the Clone Wars. And like if they do something within that timeline in live action, then maybe there's a possibility of seeing him again. But I don't think we're ever gonna get Hayden Christensen as a main character in anything again, unless we get a Vader series or movie or anything, which is something people are begging for and are loud enough about, which I think it might be a possibility, because especially now it seems that Disney is opening their ears just a little bit to what people want to see. Because the only reason why the Ahsoka series exists is because that episode of The Mandalorian did well and everybody liked it so much. That was the pilot for this series. If that episode didn't do good and it wasn't well accepted, the show wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point that you brought up too with Anakin. Mm-hmm. Is like he teaches Ahsoka that she is more than her past. Mm-hmm. And that's what she's so stuck on. She's so stuck on her past, and it's made her jaded and stoic, and it's made her not be able to reach her full potential and be a teacher and help the next generation. And we see that with Sabine. Training Sabine as a warrior, even though she calls her Padawan, she's only training her to fight. And Sabine already knows how to do that. Sabine's a Mandalorian. That's in her blood. So... And there's also that moment, too, with, like... I love Jason Syndulla, by the way. I really didn't know how I was going to feel about his character, and I really like his character. When he shows Hera...
The lightsabers.
To hear the lightsabers, that, again, it reinforces, for me, that the theme in this show is something that we originally got in the original trilogy, is that the Force resides in everyone.
It's not
but it's the Force sensitive people that have to that are easy. They can more easily identify it, and they can help other people who are weak in the Force to realize that. That was a cool moment.
There's this thing that Dave Filoni said, and I don't remember the exact quote, but he talks about how the Force resides in everybody, like how people hold certain abilities. For example, some people are really good at drawing because they're just born with this natural talent, but some people want to draw and they're not born with this talent, so they train themselves to do it, and through practice they're able to achieve something really good. They might not be swinging out the gate with the talent that other people were possessed with, like Anakin Skywalker is so talented with the Force, but it's let me go check the camera real quick.
Where are you going?
Something's flashing.
Oh no.
It says recording, but it also shows the micro SDs flashing.
That probably means we lost some footage.
Oh, it says 1 minute left.
Okay.
Is that recording?
No. It is. God.
You said no!
Okay. All right.
Let's just pick it up right from where it was.
Okay.
But, so... So, no, it's like how... Technical difficulties. It's like how, yeah, some people can draw better than others because they have this talent.
Yes.
Anakin has this talent to use the Force in such a way that exceeds others. But still, we get people like Luke that never show, and we mentioned this last episode. He's never shown in the entirety of his life. He has no clue what the Force is, but then he grows to be the most powerful Jedi of his time. So it's definitely possible for anybody to use the Force, no matter who they are or what they are. Just like how Chir Imwe basically uses the Force to see, but he can't directly use the Force.
It also makes me wonder how much the Force itself plays a part in who lives and who dies.
Oh, it plays everything.
And I know that this is something that George has already done with the story, but like I think it... I feel like after this episode, there are a lot of things that are a lot more concrete and before were kind of conceptual. Mm-hmm. With, like, Ahsoka very well could have died. Mm-hmm. But there would be imbalance because there's Baylan and Shin, and there's Ahsoka and Sabine. If Ahsoka dies, the balance is broken, and the Force needs there to be balance. So therefore, the Force guides Ahsoka in staying alive and finding the Purgle and going to the other galaxy.
But you also have to remember, not only is there Baylan and Sheen, because there's them two, there's Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, Luke, and to our knowledge, Cal Kestis, and whoever Luke is training. So the Force is leaning on the light right now. Seems like they got to do some numbers on the light side real quick.
First Order, Kylo Ren, Palpatine's still alive. Boom, there you go.
Well, he's not born yet.
Yeah, I think he's like a small little baby at this point, because we're approaching like 10 years since Return of the Jedi now. So that's another point I want to bring up, though. This episode does a fantastic job of showing you that Anakin and Vader are the same person. Vader is a part of Anakin, as opposed to, there are a lot of people that, like, when Vader says, I killed Anakin Skywalker, no, that doesn't make him a different person now. Mm-hmm. He's still Anakin. Vader is a part of him, and I love how Anakin shows Ahsoka, and she shows it herself, in that, we just watched that little clip, that your dark side... You control it. And again, in that season 6 episode of Clone Wars with Yoda, he does that same thing where he fights his dark side, his manifestation, and learns to control it rather than banish it. Mm-hmm. That's something that the Jedi lose sight of, is they teach you to reject the dark side, not accept it as part of yourself. And that is part of the dogmatic view of the prequel Jedi. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's again, this has all been stuff that's been shown to us already, but I think that we've lost sight of a lot of it over the years.
The problem is lots of it is really subtle storytelling. This is something that...
For smart people.
It's implied through the demeanor in the writing, but just because it isn't told to you, lots of people don't understand it, which is one of the biggest plights of people that are between casuals and diehards, because then the diehards have multiple facets, and the multiple facets of diehards are people like us that really dig deep, and we analyze these stories as to what they truly are, and what is the subtle nuances of every line and every notion. And then there's the people that are diehards just because they like it a lot, but they like it at face value. Yeah. And they lack conviction. Yes. They don't dig. They accept it for what it is. And it's upsetting to be such a big fan of something, but not to truly understand it. In the Bible, it says that God will see many people and say, although you have professed my name, I have never known you. And it's kind of weird to convert this into the terms of Star Wars, but it works. It's kind of similar. There's so many deep stories that are within this, and although you say you're such a Star Wars fan and that you love this stuff so much, you don't truly understand it. It's just because you have to sit down and you have to analyze it. You can't just sit on your couch and then watch it at face value and then just walk away with it. Not saying that you can't do that. Everybody can enjoy Star Wars in their own right. But don't go online and then start bashing things and being like, Star Wars is bad because XYZ, when you never delve deep into it yourself and pulled out your own opinions. You're just spewing garbage of what somebody else said. You're not formulating your own opinions and your own loves on this series.
Yeah.
You're just regurgitating somebody else's crap.
Here's like, and now that you brought that up, this episode also has completely changed my perspective on when I see stuff like that online. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just like after watching this show, I'm like, yeah, it's not even worth trying to argue with you or to have discourse with you because you just don't get it. And you don't want to get it. And that's the difference. Like, for example, this episode, the sentiment that, oh, it's just a bunch of fan service and member berries. No, that's all Dave Filoni does is just smash action figures together and blah, blah. Well, no, the purpose of Anakin bringing Ahsoka back to the Clone Wars, yes, there are bits of that, like the Captain Rex shot is absolutely fan service. But that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with fan service.
What the context
but
is.
Him bringing her back there, like we said, is to get to the root of her problem.
Who else has taught Ahsoka anything? And like multiple occurrences. We see Yoda maybe teach her something once. We see Plo Koon maybe teach her something once. Ahsoka grew up and basically was mentored and fathered by Anakin.
Yeah.
This person is what she was. They were best friends. They were master and apprentice, but they
brother
were,
and sister.
They were more than that. Yes, they were. And there's no Ahsoka thing. They were.
In Clone Wars season 7, she literally refers to Anakin to the Martez sisters as her older brother.
Yeah, they're basically siblings at this point.
They are.
So the only person that is going to get her out of this slump and get her out of this mindset is going to be Anakin. Nobody else can teach it to her. Even Luke Skywalker couldn't. Even seeing him, you think that
they don't have that connection.
They don't have the connection other than like, oh, your dad was like my guy.
Yeah.
So it's when we do see them together, we see Ahsoka at this point where she's still refusing to train Grogu because she's still at this point of contention where she's holding on to the past. It's dragging her down, and the only way that she could have let go of it is by this thing with Anakin. And again, this is a lot like when we see Ben Solo and Han Solo in episode 9. This is something that's playing out within the Force. This is an internal battle being shown in a visible way. This isn't all, technically it's inside her mind, so it is happening. Same thing with Kylo Ren. This conversation he has with Han Solo is in his head. It's a visual statement of a personal battle, because the hardest thing to convey to an audience is thought. Mm-hmm. If you can convey how somebody thinks, that's the hardest tool to do in filmmaking. So using a visual thing to show these conflicts is a very strong and rooted way, especially showing a character like Anakin, which resonates with so many people, is such a profound way to connect this character into what she's going through with the audience. So I would even say that this isn't fan service at all. I would say it is the only tool that you could have used to take Ahsoka out of that mindset.
Yeah, and again though, it's after watching it, I'm like, it's not like I'm not even gonna entertain a conversation with someone who thinks that it's fan service, because we're on two completely different levels of enjoyment and understanding of this franchise. And again, like you said, you put it perfectly by saying we're analytical. We want to talk about the philosophical things. We want to talk about the writing and the things like that. Not just, I'm looking at the events on this. Kind of like when we said in the beginning, technically this could be considered a filler episode. Because if you're just looking at, without any character development, without anything at all, you're just looking at the things that are happening to drive the plot forward, then yeah, then to you, this would be a filler episode. You know? Then,
and to a lot of people, it seems to have been. There's a lot, granted, there are tons of people that are enjoying this episode just because of the
this show has like a 95% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's great.
Yeah,
and it well deserves it. But lots of these people are just liking it just because of their connection to the Clone Wars, and that's a big reason as to why we're enjoying it.
Yeah,
but the storytelling in it is also very mature and profound. And it's not to say that there's lots of people, like, when I hear people argue about the sequels, some of those dislikes are founded, I think.
Absolutely.
Some of them are.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
There are things in those sequel movies that are without saying poorly planned, kind of trashy, and breaks some things of canon that makes us really change our mindset as to what Star Wars has to be now.
Yeah.
So we have to accept it. We have to accept a new norm. So, but with that, I can understand. But things that we're seeing with this and people complaining about different facets of the Ahsoka show, like the opening crawl not being good enough for them, or that opening crawl, it's not a crawl, it's the announcement of the new Clone Wars episode. That's what it is. It sets the stage for what this is, but it's the Dave Filoni terror on Ryloth. That's what it is. They just don't have the voice actor this time. Guess what? You're older now. You can read. You don't need the title crawl read to you anymore.
And again, we've talked about it before, but again, I feel like so much more concrete in making the statement now that we're 5 episodes deep is this is not a show for a casual fan.
No,
if you watch this episode and you didn't know anything about who Ahsoka was other than the Mandalorian episode you saw, then you're going to be so left in the dust. But that's because this episode is about a character that's been built on way beyond all of this stuff, including other characters like our supporting cast, Hera, even a character I would argue like Carson Teva.
Like Delilah didn't remember who Carson Teva was, even though we've been watching it. No, it's not a bad thing, but it's like if you're not paying attention and you're not keeping track of everybody, you're not going to know what's going on. But it's a weird thing that we only see with Star Wars that people will complain about it. For example, there's a new series about Daryl from The Walking Dead, and I think it's Daryl. I don't know the names because I don't.
Daryl Dixon.
So there's a show basically all about him around The Walking Dead. If you're a diehard fan, you're not going to start with that one. You're going to tell people to start with the beginning of The Walking Dead where his character originates, and then when you watch this show, if you're not going to I can't go into that and then watch that and then get the full enjoyment out of it without watching the things that came before, because there's going to be nuances to his character from beforehand, and there's going to be references and all things like that I'm just not going to understand. And so I don't think I can pick it aside and be like, this show sucks because X, Y, and Z, because I don't get the context.
Yeah.
So I don't think people can truly pick it Ahsoka and be like, I don't like this show because X, Y, and Z if they have not seen the Clone Wars, if they have not seen Rebels, and they have not seen Mando. And I would even stretch to say in some aspects, maybe leading in with seeing Thrawn, with the Thrawn books, there are going to be things that I think we're going to see later that might have to do with some of the material within those books, and it'll be a little bit confusing if you don't understand it. But then again, as a filmmaker, you and especially as Disney as a business, you do have to make these things approachable for the casual viewer.
Yes.
So it's a really hard battle, but the thing is that Dave Filoni he loves Star Wars and he loves getting down to the nitty-gritty. So I've heard a lot of complaints about Dave Filoni just being like, he just likes to do fan service and have these deep-seated, like the dude from Screen Crush, Ryan Airy, always complains about how Dave Filoni just is deep-seated and how he only does fan service and has these like really niche callbacks that nobody gets. And it's like, that's not for you. It's for people like us. I can argue that you can start watching Ahsoka now and get the full enjoyment out of it without really understanding what's going on.
I would agree. I think that this episode in particular, it's the level of care that you would have about it. Like, you're going to care a lot less about, and that's why you're seeing a lot of like, oh my gosh, Anakin's back, because a lot of people are more familiar with Anakin than they are Ahsoka, because a lot of people watched the prequels but they didn't watch the Clone Wars. I know plenty of people that to this day haven't watched the Clone Wars, and again, the moments where those fans, like the Clone Wars fans, appreciate something, if you didn't watch Clone Wars, it just that's why you didn't enjoy it, that's why you didn't get it, because you didn't. This is for people that grew up with Star Wars, and Star Wars is my life. Like we have watched the Clone Wars countless times. We've watched episodes of this show countless times, and we connect with this character that our generation grew up with, and we are now seeing her as an adult still deal with things and change and reform, and this still is not the end of her story. She's got more to go.
And it's especially with Anakin being back, it's like for people like me, Anakin, my favorite characters have always they did the circle where like when I was getting back into Star Wars, my favorite characters all changed except for Thrawn. Thrawn's the only like new character that I've gotten into that I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But it's like Anakin was my childhood hero. I was Clone Wars Anakin for Halloween one year with a really creepy mask. It's like I have all the 6-inch Anakin figures now. It's like I'm a diehard for the kin. I have written in a notepad that if I have a daughter, her name will be Anna and her middle name will be Kin. That's just how it's gonna go. Like that's just how it's gonna be. That's just what I want. And so it's like for people like me that grew up with this, yeah, this is gonna mean a lot. And then for new casual people that don't really get it, they're not gonna be like, oh, they're not gonna cry like how I did when it all starts to happen.
Dude, when that Clone
Did you
Wars,
cry?
When I didn't like have tears fall down my face, but when I realized what was happening, when she gets up and I see the clone troopers and I see the Republic gunship land in the background and the ATTEs and Anakin in the arm, like everything about it. I'm like, I would tears welling up in my eyes, and I was watching it by myself, and I was for the first time, and I was like, no way, no way, because like this means so much to me, you know. So in that regard,
I was the
it's
same.
fan service, but
I was the same, but it's like the only thing, every time anything happened, I would just go, and I was just like, my breath was taken away, and by the time the episode was over, I was speechless. Like that, I literally couldn't. I was just like,
it was funny because I watched it with Jen last night, and she had just seen it for the first time. That was my third time watching it. When that Clone Wars flashback happened, well, it's not even a flashback, but when the Clone Wars scene happens, and I look over and she's just silently weeping, like tears like streaming down her face, just and I'm like, all day today she's been blowing up my phone about like the Jedi and Ahsoka and blah 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 and like isn't that, I'm like, this is what I mean, like this show is something different. It's taking people who appreciate Star Wars and changing how they look at the whole thing. It's monumental. It's yeah.
This show is it's unlike how the sequels are for the next generation of Star Wars, and the OT and the Mandalorian stuff is for us, but mostly geared towards the old generation of Star Wars. This is for us. 100% for us. The Mandalorian is something that everybody can enjoy. Book of Boba Fett was meant for OT people to enjoy, but they ended up just hating
it's
on
a shoot 'em up show, you know.
Obi-Wan Kenobi was geared towards the people that grew up seeing the prequels in the theater, and although I love Obi-Wan and I love Anakin, I grew up with the prequels. I didn't see them in the theaters, so it's not like I have that connection to it. I went home every Friday and I watched Clone Wars with my family.
The new episode of the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network.
And it's like it's what I grew up on. So this is just, it's bringing my childhood to life, and it's done in such a masterful way. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah.
The show could end now and I would be happy with
That's what I mean. Like it's I don't know what they're going to do with 3 more episodes, because I'm like, and we haven't even seen the big bad guy yet. But yeah,
we got to see him next episode. And I'm kind of low key hoping that it's not like he shows up at the very end and then walks on and doesn't say a word, and then we got 2 more episodes of like limbo of what's gonna happen with Ron. I kind of hope that we get him like beginning to mid episode tomorrow, so we can start to. So, because how is this gonna wrap up?
I think it's gonna end with Thrawn is the big bad for this era of Star Wars. This is like something's gonna happen with Thrawn, and we get left on a cliffhanger where like the battle's not over, it's only begun. You know, but we have heroes who are resolved now. You know, and that's where I'm. But some cool things about this episode. Again, Dave. So there's the big philosophical umbrella. And then within that are again the fan service, the member berries, blah blah blah. Right when they're in the world between worlds at the beginning, and Anakin looks at Ahsoka and goes, "Live or die," and he ignites his lightsaber. Ahsoka says, "I won't fight you," and Anakin says, "I've heard that before." He's referencing when Luke says that to him in Return of the Jedi in the Emperor's throne room. Vader is standing at the bottom of the stairs, and he looks up at Luke, and Luke goes, "I will not fight you, Father." And then they continue their battle. It's just like that moment right there. That's a perfect moment of I love that, and it's like poetry. It kind of rhymes.
There's another rhyme, right when Anakin's giving Ahsoka the lecture, in between the battle on Lothal, when she was saying, "What if I don't want to fight?"
On Ryloth?
Then you will die. We get that in Rebels too.
Yeah.
Same line to her though.
Yep.
So it's a repeat. It's poetry. It rhymes. It was just so good. It's so good. I'm really gonna need to like watch it 5 more times.
And again, it shows that it's not just a flashback, because like when they get to Mandalore, Anakin appears and they're sharing their experiences and their memories through the Force. Anakin says, "I don't remember this battle," and that's where that shows that it's more than. Dave Filoni, in an interview, I saw this recently, and I couldn't tell you what it's from or whatever, but it is him, and he's like, the world between worlds is a place of knowledge, and this is showing you that they're speaking to each other in the world between worlds, which is a manifestation of the Force, and that, to me, again, I love everything about it, like even just the little practical things, like Anakin slashing the pathway and Ahsoka falling into the scene of the Clone Wars. I didn't see that coming. That was so cool.
I was when she started falling, I was like, this is when it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
if it's gonna happen, it's gotta happen here. But it was even when we start seeing them talk, the writing of like the banter that we get between Ahsoka and Anakin is so much like how like we're finally seeing, because throughout the prequels we just kind of see like this sarcastic kind of, not sarcastic, I would say just kind of more stuck up, stubborn Anakin.
Moody.
We get moody him. We never get like Anakin, but he's happy.
We get angsty teenager Anakin in the beginning of the Clone War, and then we get Anakin when he's like ready to turn to the dark side in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, we don't get any of that.
We never get the middle. So we got some of the middle, which was so good.
And it was amazing. And the actress that played young Ahsoka did her job to a T. Like, that was
Imagine
fantastic.
having to keep that secret. Dude. Imagine having to keep that
Fun fact,
secret.
she was the actress that played young Gamora in Infinity War. Did you know that?
I did not.
And also,
why wasn't it Ashley Eckstein?
On the Mandalore part, that there's a stunt double that does all the lightsaber fighting. That's the stunt double that did the CGI mocap for Clone Wars Season 7.
That's awesome.
Isn't that freaking awesome?
And I was going to say, that sequence of seeing her fight the Mandalorians is so acrobatic and so good. It's just
she literally does a breakdancing move on the ground before she like slashes the one. It was so awesome.
Good. And this is everything I could have wanted in like the next decade. My dopamine will be firing for the next month.
And like the storytelling, you have her at the beginning of the Clone War where she doesn't want to fight and she's questioning it, to she's just without question chopping down Mandalorians at the end of the Clone War. You see how the war has changed her in just a 3 years time, and she's still a kid. I think that's also amazing. It really hits home seeing her in live action. She was actually like when I was in 8th and 9th grade when she started like the Clone War. Like that was like 13, 14. Like that to me, it's like I look at my brothers like that age and I'm like, dude, and he was like that age person in the middle of a war, like killing people and stuff. I'm like, that's crazy. And again, it's I feel like we could talk about it forever. Like, there's no way that we could ever sit in a podcast in one episode and catch everything that we want to talk about.
We're most definitely, the second we run out of ideas after the show's over, we're gonna revisit this topic.
I agree.
So,
yeah,
it's
but yeah,
so
and even like the scenes with like Hera and Hu Yang and Chopper and all that.
They never listen,
dude. Or another thing, I love the little bit. Again, it's just thoughtful writing and thoughtful direction.
Okay.
When he's like, they're on the ship and she's like, how low? And then Jason's like, she wants to know how low, like to Chopper. I'm like, dude, that's just, again, that's perfect. That's great.
I love when Hu Yang is like, his father had special abilities, and then Carson was just, okay.
Or the name drop. What about that name drop about Leia Organa, Senator Organa? Did you catch that?
No.
Dude, so Carson comes up to Hera right as she's like before they listen to the waves, and he's like, "Oh, Senator Organa can only buy us a little more time."
You know what? I definitely caught that, but because I'm not used to hearing Senator Organa, I was thinking her father.
You're thinking, I thought Bail Organa.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So here's my theory: Hera is going to Coruscant to be court-martialed. What if Leia shows up and saves her from losing her general rank?
That would be cool.
Because I think that would fit.
Girl boss.
I think that, but again, this whole show has been mainly female
And
leads.
what if when Leia comes in, we see Han Solo again? I would cream if I got Han Solo, Anakin, Thrawn, all in one show wrapped up in a bow.
Baby Ben Solo.
Dude, I would literally ignite. I would spontaneously combust.
Dude,
it's not even funny.
That's what I'm saying. They're at like her hearing, and then all of a sudden, boom, through the door. It's like Leia Organa. She shows up, and it's her daughter playing her, like she did for Rogue One, and it's like it de-aged. I think that'd be fantastic because they've already done it for Luke.
And Lucasfilm just did a metric ton of training of Harrison Ford's face for Indiana Jones.
And then, like on top of that too. It just makes sense because I know there's gonna be more of Hera before the show ends. There's not just gonna end it with and she's gonna lose her rank, but we'll never. And again, I love it. It just goes to show like Mon Mothma is such an empty leader as a chancellor. She sucks.
She has no backbone.
Yeah, because she's so worried about people perceiving her how the Empire was perceived, where like no one has a choice. So she's like exactly how the Old Republic was. Like we went right back to what wasn't working. Like, you know, with the oversight committees and the senators. And it's like, oh, but they'll send 3 cruisers to go pick them up, but they won't send the cruisers to go investigate this thing. You know, it's all about greed and power. And they want to take power away from people that don't listen. And the Republic is the Empire. That's what it, and we see that already. It's like you can't take a bunch of corrupt people, put them under a new name, a new title, and be like, oh, they're not corrupt anymore. It's, again, that's a whole nother side of the storytelling that we're going to continue to see for years from now.
And this is what I truly love about Star Wars is the fact that it's one big universe, but everything is connected. I love that because the amount of thought in meticulous design that has to go into the storytelling that we are getting right now is wild.
It is.
It's so wild. Because what you write now has repercussions for what happens later, and whether or not it connects to something, then did you just retcon something? You have to be meticulous when you're writing this.
Yeah.
So it's blowing me away. And especially with the Heir of the Empire drop and the fact that Dave might be getting his movie around Heir of the Empire and just finishing that series, I would love to see the OT characters come back, like in their young forms, and see them again. Just because after reading those books, I have a new appreciation for them. Yeah. So.
But
yeah,
I'm trying to rack my brain, like, and make sure that, like, I get all my big idea thoughts out. It's all like, or how about like when Anakin does the Obi-Annie spin?
Yeah.
When he's fighting Ahsoka, I'm like, come on, dude, you can't. Let me just make sure I. Blah 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 blah. I think we've hit everything, and we now have Ahsoka the White, also bald Ahsoka moment. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, without seeing the headband, that was odd.
Ahsoka comes back. Again, we get that cool thing where the objects have the remnants of the Force. She kind of looks at the map, the star map, and hears what happened, the Force echo. And then, yeah, like the Purgle I think we're done perfectly again.
The big whale.
Big whales. And, yeah, just, again, all in all, I feel like we've closed a chapter of the book. Like, we're reading a book, and we've just hit the climax of the book.
I know.
You know? And it's like
weird. The climax, because the climax is defined as the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
So that happened. So
this was beyond all I knew there was going to be Anakin. I knew there was probably going to be a Clone Wars something. It was beyond all expectations.
Fantastic.
This is the other thing. Real quick, so for all of you Star Wars costuming nerds out there, I just wanted to talk about the Clone Trooper costumes, how they're different. I'm not going to go in depth on that. I might end up doing like a short video where I just kind of like, you know, sit and talk about it and put pictures on the screen. Like, oh, this is different than what we've seen before.
We can do that in the stream sometime.
Yeah. So the thing with Captain Rex is when he's in his Phase 2 suit, the bicep plates are on the wrong arms. They're backwards, and they were supposed to be on the other arms.
Well, they're not backwards and wrong. Dave Filoni said, "This is how I want to do it now."
No, the costume people 100% did it because he was the only clone like that. So whoever put on Rex's costume, you're not gonna get fired, but that now you just created the new CRL for Captain Rex. Yeah, his bicep plates were on backwards. I thought that was interesting. But the way that the clones are now, a lot of the armor pieces around joints and parts where the body bends have been cut a lot smaller than they were in the CGI clones, so that the clones have freedom of movement with a real person in the suit. This is something that I think is really, really cool, and it makes me excited and hopeful that we'll see clone troopers more in live action in the future. I'm absolutely not going to sit here and try to be some elitist on clone trooper costumes. At the end of the day, it's Lucasfilm, and they can do whatever they want, and I'm going to applaud it and be happy about it. You know what I mean? So, and then the other cool thing is Captain Rex's pistols, now DC-17s have front sights. That's never been a thing that has ever happened before. So I think it's really cool that DC-17 pistols have front sights now. But
instead of being smooth.
Yeah. But yeah.
I do see the biceps now. I definitely do see that. Because before I was like, I didn't know what you're talking about.
The blue stripe is on the outside.
But that cuff is supposed to be on the tricep.
If they put it on the other arm. And yeah, but other than that, I think it looks great. I think for a live-action clone trooper to have realistic movement, it's done really well, and I can't wait to see more of it because I know it's going to happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, at any rate.
That's been Ahsoka episodes 4 and 5. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the 1313 podcast, and if you haven't already, go watch Ahsoka episode 5. Get ready for next week because I'm already counting down the days. But if you haven't already, make sure that you like, subscribe, give us a comment, let us know what you thought of the episode, and follow us on all of our social media, as well as support us on Patreon. We do giveaways at the beginning of every month. Next month's giveaway is probably going to get wrapped up into the 1,000 giveaway. So it's going to be really big. So stay tuned for that. We might have a Patreon exclusive giveaway wrapped in with all that.
If you guys have any suggestions as to what you'd want to see us give away, drop it in the comments below.
Comments, and go in the Discord and let us know what you want from there as well.
Yes.
But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the 1313 podcast. We see you guys all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hey, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the 1313 podcast.